Now, some City of Cape Town officials maintain that elements of the forceful eviction of Bulelani Qholani were orchestrated. A video of the 28-year-old man being violently hauled from his shack while completely naked went viral during the week, sparking outrage over the inhumanity displayed. During a cooperative governance portfolio committee briefing on Friday evening, city officials claim preliminary investigations show Qholani was initially dressed before the cameras were switched on.
It is difficult to say too much about it and to go into too much detail. But the preliminary investigation as it is showed us that Mr. Bulelani Qholani was outside of the facility. The videos and screenshots you see are from one of our law enforcement officials walking with a camera, and in the background, and this is all being submitted to the independent investigators, in the background can be heard the sounds of the 5 structures on the day that were removed in terms of that interim order being removed. And Mr. Qholani is standing with that camera. He then hands the camera to an acquaintance, and then after in the bottom right he can be seen at the structure, and when the structure is erected, at some point he emerges having disrobed and waves a piece of paper that is in separate video footage, which we felt was not appropriate to display to your committee. And then subsequently the officials go in and there is indeed a scuffle. He says there was a long conversation before the scuffle.
Now, the Ndifuna Ukwazi organization has opposed the city's actions since the evictions began about 2 months ago and will assist Qholani with the matter. But joining us to talk about this is Buhle Booi, a Ndifuna Ukwazi community organizer who was present at the time of Qholani's eviction in Khayelitsha. Buhle, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us on Weekend Dawn. I mean, looking at the clashes that occurred or have occurred perhaps even since April, it's raising a lot of legal and ethical questions. Looking at the background work done by Ndifuna Ukwazi at large on this matter, I mean, walk us through what that looked like to date.
Thank you so much. You would recall that during the start of the lockdown and this time of the national state of disaster, we had written to the presidency as Ndifuna Ukwazi to ask the National Council Command to put a stop in the execution of evictions. And this was through saying that we had written a moratorium on evictions. Asking the courts, asking the National Council Command to ask the courts to set aside all evictions during this time, understanding the importance that a home is the first line of defense against this COVID-19. And the regulations were issued exactly with what we'd asked the National Council Command to put a stop on evictions. Now, during alert level 3, the Minister of Cooperative Governance had issued a statement to say that there are some amendments in the regulation, particularly now we have Regulation 36 and 48.2 in the regulation of COVID-19, which talks specifically to the eviction matters. And it leaves now the evictions to the discretion of the courts. There's no blanket approach in terms of saying that there must be no evictions at all, as in level 5. Now it says that the courts may issue out orders of evictions, and it can be the courts that can deem it just and equitable if a person or the court order must be executed. And we found this to be problematic because it is inconsistent with the regulation, the guidelines that have been issued by the United Nations Special Rapporteur on evictions and housing, recognizing that the importance of life is important and it must be preserved. And the home is the first line of defense. And now leaving it to the courts to say that it can be executed or not during the end of alert level 3. The United Nations are saying that look, the execution of evictions must be put on hold until the end of the pandemic. Now these regulations are only confining it till the end of alert level 3. That means after that the evictions may be outcarried, and we know that even after level 3 we still have level 2, and we will still not be out of this time of the national state of disaster and pandemic.
Now,
So we
Buhle,
returned to the
I
National
just
Council
want
for
to
months.
look, as you mentioned, the inconsistencies that obviously have presented themselves. Looking at the current state of disaster, as you mentioned rightfully, that there is a prohibition on demolitions and evictions. But I want you to take us back to the day, Wednesday, of course, when the incident happened involving Bulelani. You, in fact, were present. Walk us through what transpired on that day.
Thank you so much. What had transpired on that day was exactly against the regulations that we're talking about now, about the execution of eviction. And we know that generally the law provides that there must be no evictions without a court order. And on the day we arrived at Tembeni, and there was, upon the call from community members to tell us that there were law enforcement there. And when we arrived, we went to engage with the law enforcement to try to get who had authorized the eviction and, the demolition, and where is the court order for them to do that. These law enforcement officials had refused to engage us, and there was an official from housing department that also refused to engage us, even when engaging them about the illegality of what they were doing. They went in to the community, and they didn't even give people a chance to remove their properties outside their homes. They went in and demolished people's homes. And Bulelani at the time was fasting, was taking a bath, and the kids were at home and was taking a bath. The kids immediately ran out. They saw law enforcement, and he remained behind and pleaded with them to allow him some time to get rest. And he asked for them to give him a court order that authorizes them to demolish his home, and they refused, and they violently beat him up and threw him out of the house, but he managed to get inside the house, and they continued with the demolition of other 4 homes. So that was very inhumane of the city of Cape Town, and we're trying to get them to be held accountable, particularly the people that had ordered the operation altogether.
Now, Buhle, just looking at the response from the City of Cape Town's Mayor Dan Plato, of course, issuing an apology, also asking for an independent investigation into the matter. In fact, also coming out to say that, or insinuating rather, that Bulelani had tactically undressed himself in preparation as the officers were approaching the shack. I mean, in light of this accusation, what do you make of that statement, as you were also present at that incident?
It's a quite condescending statement that seeks to criminalize black people, that seeks to reduce people to actors when they're faced with difficulties. He's saying that he undressed himself. Who would do that? What type of a human being would do that? He was bathing, and you can see even in the video that he still has some water in his body. So I was still bathing. What the mayor is saying, it's lies. The city of Cape Town is synonymous with lies. That's what they do. They peddle lies. So because we're there, we've witnessed firsthand what had happened there. Bulelani was bathing, and they tried to engage the law enforcement officers to give them some time, but they were violent. So, they are calling for an independent investigation and so on. We welcome that, and we further welcome the suspension of law enforcement officers that were present in the scene that had violently and brutalized Bulelani. But we are saying that that's not enough. That's not enough. They must hold JP Smith, they must hold Buhle Booi, they must hold Richard Bosman accountable, because those are the people, those are the individuals that are ordering these operations. And we want clear guidelines in terms of what is the role and the body that holds law enforcement accountable. There's no body that holds law enforcement accountable that would play a similar function as IPID in Cape Town. That's why they're acting the way they are doing, because they're held responsible. They're reporting directly to a JP Smith. We're saying that must end. in this democratic dispensation, there must be a board, an independent board that holds law enforcement accountable.
All right, so
And we want
seeking
guidelines in terms
justice
of
and accountability,
anti-evasion.
Buhle. I mean, seeking justice and accountability, Buhle. And at large, looking at the steps ahead, what are the legal options at Bulelani's disposal? How is the organization Ndifuna Ukwazi also going to assist in the matter?
Thank you so much. There are a lot of options that are available to Bulelani, and today we'll be attending a press briefing that would be called by the Khalisha Community Action Network at Bulelani to address some of the legal questions and the steps that Bulelani will be taking. But we know for a fact now that there is a case that will be opened by the South African Human Rights Commission together with Legal Resources Center. And what would further assist with, as Ndifuna Ukwazi, is probably in consultation with Bulelani, is opening a case. In fact, it has opened, of assisted Bulelani opening a case, and we will further look into the issue of damages claims for Bulelani Qholani. That's what we'll be doing, and we're still seeking legal advice at this time in terms of how could that process could look like,
right,
so that there is justice for Bulelani at this point.
All right, Buhle, as that investigation continues, we'll continue to track that story and more. Of course, Ndifuna Ukwazi community organizer Buhle Booi just chatting to us about the forceful removal of Bulelani Qholani out of his dwelling on Wednesday. Also just chatting about the future plans and options ahead for the organization and with regards to the legal case that has been opened.